Thank you, Colonel Birnbaum. Our next speaker is Dr. Ruth Bergman. She is the CTO. Dr. Ruth Bergman is the Chief Technology Officer at the Edison Data Within GE Healthcare Science and Technology Organization. Her extensive expertise, including leadership role at GE Global Research and HP Labs Israel, with background in machine learning, artificial intelligence, computer vision, and algorithm. Dr. Bergman holds a PhD in electrical engineering and computer science from MIT, along with numerous patents and academic publications. She will talk about navigating the AI landscape in healthcare, striking the balance between uncertainty and risk.
Let me try this. No? So just this? Okay. I guess I'm here. Hi, thanks for the introduction. Thanks, Chen and Kobe, for organizing this. It's really a pleasure to see this thriving community. I've been here since, I think, the beginning. Wow, thanks to the previous speaker. Very humbling. I thought I was working on things that touch our lives, but he's a different level. So I was asked to talk about AI and risk. The way that I'm going to convey risk in AI is through the lens of patient safety. This is what I do at GE Healthcare. Obviously, we're a medical device company. And because I assume most of you in the audience don't think about patient safety every day, let's talk a little bit about that, right? Basically, when you practice medicine, every treatment, every medical decision, every drug, everything that you do has the potential to help and has the potential to do some harm to patients. This is not something theoretical. This is every day. This is something that's tracked. The World Health Organization, for example, tracks this. They say 1 in 10 patients is harmed in healthcare. 3 million deaths a year. And really this happens from every single treatment, every drug, everything. So this is something we think about all the time. And I'll give you a little personal story. This adorable child is my daughter. She was born in 1995. It happens to be the same year that a vaccination for chickenpox was made available. Chickenpox about Ruach. And I went with her to a regular checkup. So when she was 2 years old, I went to the doctor. Doctor said, oh, there's a chickenpox vaccine, but the recommendation currently is not to give it. I said, okay, I'm just a PhD. She was the medical doctor. A year later, I go back for another annual physical, and she says, let's vaccinate. And I'm confused. And so I ask, what happened? Well, what happened is they'd been accumulating data for a few years, and they'd seen a rise in infected pox, and that led to death. And so that tipped the balance of the risk of the vaccination and to the benefit of the vaccination, and the recommendation changed to vaccinate in 1998, I believe. And this is how all of medicine is practiced. It's always a risk-benefit assessment. And what I want to say in this presentation is, when we talk about AI and the risk of AI, there's really nothing new. It's the same balance that we have to strike. There's a benefit and there's a risk. We can think about it in exactly the same way that we have been thinking about medical devices since, well, for the past, I don't know, maybe 150 years, right? It's been a data-driven profession. So when I think about the risk of AI, and I'll kind of go back because not everybody's practicing medicine, but we think about AI errors, we think about bias, we worry about drift. These are the things that we worry about, right? And when we're creating a product, an AI product, we translate that to business risk, right? And so what's the business risk? Well, there's kind of two dimensions to it. One is the risk around the data collection. Have we done it in an ethical way? Have we maintained privacy and so on? So I'll come back to that a little bit later. The rest of it is really business risk, right? If our AI is bad, we won't make money, right? If our AI is bad, we might give incorrect information. Right? Imagine Google giving us, bad information. And if our AI is bad or doesn't give the right information, we're not going to have a great reputation in the company, right? And okay, Google is an example of that. Recently, right, they took a little bit of a hit around Gemini, but I think their reputation is still okay. So when I think about medical device, that business risk, I translate it, right? And in the medical device world, okay, we do have the same risk around data and patient data and patient privacy and maintaining that. The rest of it is really, we think about three things that are our failure modes of our medical devices, right? One is that we might confuse. We give some information to a doctor, they're making clinical decisions, and we're confusing them, right? We could give right information and just make it cluttered on the screen, and that's confusing, right? It can be as simple as that. We can give incorrect or missing information, so that's where our AI errors happen. That's where our bias comes in, drift as well. And we could give data for the wrong patient. Typically, that's less of an AI problem, but maybe could be with a hallucination in Gen AI. Okay? So like what you have to do in your domain, whatever it is think about that business risk and how that AI risk translates to it in the way that I have kind of done here about patient risk. And so then when you want to put out your AI product, you have to think, does this new AI capability add or reduce risk, right? Does the benefit outweigh the risk? So let's think about that in the context of a few medical devices. GE Healthcare happens to be the company that has the most FDA-approved medical devices, something on the order of 50 devices. So I'll give a few examples from ours, but also some examples from other things. Okay, we have GE excels at those big imaging machines, right? The MR, CT. This is a big part of our business. And we've always used a lot of physics in order to create images from those machines. But in the last few years, we've actually used AI. And so we have an algorithm, we call it AirRecon DL, for reconstructing the image from an MR machine. And we can really show that this new algorithm is better than the physics-based algorithm. It gives better image quality, better contrast, and you can really see the details, right? So we really can show that we can drastically increase the contrast. This is feedback from our customers. So sometimes your AI really is just better, provably better than the previous technology. And that's kind of an easy one, right? You have one technology, another, you do the comparison, easy one. Another one in the same category, same thing, reconstruction algorithm, this time for a CT machine, okay? And again, we get better image quality, we get better contrast. With a CT machine, there's another thing, very important benefit, because the CT is X-rays. There's harm to the patient just from using a CT machine. This is like, it's radiation, it's not that great for you. And what we can do with the AI algorithm is use lower dose CT to get the same quality images. So we get pure benefit, right? not only in the technical sense, but also, really in the medical sense. Switching gears a little bit to detection. We also have quite a few detection algorithms. And this is a popular topic that a lot of people worked in. We currently have triaging for X-rays for pneumothorax. Pneumothorax is when you get air in the lungs, but not where it's supposed to be. It's, it's between the wall of the lung and the chest. Doesn't really help you breathe. And okay, so you want to detect it, you want to fix it. And so we do it with AI. A lot of people do it with AI. The first thing we do is we do AI by the numbers, right? The way that all of you practice AI, right? We count the errors, we count false alerts, and we have, really good numbers for this technology. What I found is a lot of these problems are actually not that hard for this technology. They seem hard, but they turned out not to really be hard. So we get great numbers for large pneumothoraxes, 96% detection, a little bit less for smaller pneumothoraxes, very low false alarm rate. The other thing is, so we say the technology is good, it's helpful, but that's not all, okay? Now comes the question of how we introduce it as a product, right? And the way that we would introduce it as a product, and this is a big part of reducing the risk and avoiding failure modes, is we introduce it within the patient's, within the clinician workflow. So we run this algorithm, we put the results into the PACS, which is the system where all imaging data is stored at the hospital. And when the clinician goes to look at, in this case, the radiologist goes to look at the images, what they see is we've reordered their imaging studies, their work list, so that things where we've pre-detected something that we think is an issue are higher. So we've reprioritized the work list, but the workflow is the same, right? And they are eventually going to get to all of those images, right? And then they can open the image and they can see the detection, but they can also see it without the detection. So we've got a good algorithm, and we've put it into the workflow, and we've allowed the clinician to fall back to what it is that they're used to doing, in case they're not certain. So this is the approach, right? The technology adds information, but it does not replace the decision-making. It supports clinician decision-making. Another example, very similar, this cancer. A lot of our big machines, they're used to detect cancer. And in this case, we're detecting lung nodules. And very similar situation to before, right? We put it into the workflow. Clinician can see the detection, can also see it without the detection, and fall back to the existing workflow. This is not a GE example. This is by Nuance. Nuance is a Microsoft company, great technology, really doing a lot with LLMs. And they've got their newest technology. They call it Dragon Ambient Experience. And it's really remarkable. I've seen it in demos. Really, the idea is that within a clinical setting, right, patient, doctor, they have the conversation, the AI records, the AI summarizes, okay, but, okay, here's how we reduce the risk, is the clinician, before the summary goes into the EMR, the clinician reviews, the clinician approves, changes what they want to change, and so it goes into the EMR, just the same as the clinician might have done it, but it takes the clinician a lot less time. So again, what we've done is we've introduced it into the workflow, the existing workflow, and we've reduced the risk. And not replace the clinician. So basically, reducing the risk of AI comes back to like this age-old concept since we've had a regulator of intended use, right? We have this technology. How do we intend for the clinicians to use the technology? And in general, and you'll see the highlighted things here, we are not replacing the electronic medical record. We're not replacing the clinician. We're adding to the workflow. This is how we manage the risk in general for technology in medicine, and specifically the risk of AI as well, because all of these examples are all AI examples. So coming back to the question, do AI errors always increase risk to patient safety? Well, it's not a yes/no answer, right? You really have to think about it. You have to work through the steps. You have to check these things that we talked about. Is the technology better, strictly better? Does it add information and not remove information to support the clinician? Does it assist the clinician in doing their jobs to be done versus replacing the clinician? And does it add and not substitute the existing clinical workflow? Basically, you have to think about all these things, and you have to demonstrate that you have reduced the risk as far as possible. I think this is true in not only in medical devices, but anytime you use AI. So, when we do medical devices, there's a regulator. I think there are a lot of other areas with a regulator, and if not, we should be our own regulator. In medicine, in healthcare, a lot of times the approach with the regulator is kind of a negative one, right? We view them as being against us being able to put out a product. But I think that approach is really not the correct one. I would advocate thinking of the regulator as your helper in how to put out the medical device. And I'll give an example, another vaccine. This is a flu vaccine. I just found it, some application in the field. And this flu vaccine, I don't know, is it great? It's like 66% effective, okay? And it has some adverse effect, but it was accepted, right? So this is what the regulator knows how to do. The regulator knows how to look at these numbers, look at the statistics, and make the decision of, is the risk worth the benefit? So let's use them to help us determine if our products are worth taking that risk. And beyond making that decision one time, they have a process, or they ask us to have a process around monitoring our devices and improving them over time, right? And for software in particular, they've even gone quite a bit more forward in making it easier to put out the device as long as we have that good process. And that process is really all about, oh, I've put out a medical device, I've put out an AI medical device, and now I'm seeing that it was biased, right? Because the results in the field are coming out a little bit different, or I'm seeing drift over time, but I have a way to fix it in the field. So constantly assess your device, your process, and your validation. So coming back to business risk, I just want to go back to this notion about the data. This is not the first time today, probably not the last time today. You'll hear about this. You collected data, you created AI, you're happy. Just remember, if you didn't do it the right way, you may be able to put out your device, but this could come back to bite you 10 years later, right? This is what happened to Amazon last year with the Federal Trade Commission action. I won't get into it because I'm running out of time. I do want to talk about this, right? So in many ways, my message today has been, AI, nothing's changed, right? We're doing this risk-benefit analysis. What's changed? So what has changed is the technology. And the technology, really, it's remarkable. When I started in AI, this was a dream. And it's really remarkable. We have an example. I mean, we have so many amazing studies, but we have AI passing medical exams. We have this small example, but this is the holy grail of medicine, right? An AI that can do differential diagnosis. And this is like house stuff, right? If you watch that, House MD. So truly the holy grail, and do I believe we can get there? I do believe we can get there. I do believe in the revolution. I think revolution happens step by step by step by step, reducing risk every step of the way, increasing confidence of the users every step of the way in the technology. But keep at it, because we can, should, and I believe will get there. So just to summarize, yeah, it's an immense opportunity. We need to learn how to use it. Foundational models, I talked some about computer vision and some about text as well. I think both are important. Having them work together is important. We don't do enough of that. You need to think about what you're doing, and like I said, does it add or remove patient safety, right? That risk-benefit reward. You have to do sort of the regular assessment of the statistics, of AI errors. You have to reduce that risk as far as possible, not just by reducing AI errors, but by really thinking about how it's going to be used as a product. And turn to the regulator. Regulator is your friend. They can help you make the right decisions. So thanks, that's me. Okay, so we have some time for questions, because nobody else took any. So you just have to yell or something, because the room is dark and I can't see anything. Chen.
Thank you very much for the talk, and great to have you here again. My question is about using AI for diagnostics, because I see, I'm involved in the field of pathology, but also I'm following up on radiology and other domains, and it seems that the invasion of algorithms or medical devices based on AI is really behind the technology. It takes so much time. I see it, for example, in pathology, where the technology is unbelievable, but you don't see it in practice. It just takes forever. And this seems to be like going everywhere in medical applications. How do you think it will go on? Because if we want the revolution to happen, even step by step, something has to be done a bit quicker, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I joined GE Healthcare 7 years ago. I said, healthcare is on the verge of the digital transformation. And today I can still say that. It's on the verge of the digital transformation. But we're moving along. I think, specifically you ask about pathology. Pathology is difficult. It's really not yet a digital practice. It's just starting. Partly because the data is so large. And because the data is so large, you have to use cloud for pathology, and the hospitals are slow to adopt cloud, but it's happening, okay? It's happening. If you ask me to predict how many years, then, I don't know. But you ask also about diagnosis, which is another trajectory. So one is to have diagnosis happen, you have to at least have the data revolution happen. This is why I worked for a couple of years on data, and now I'm kind of back more on the application side. So you have to have the data happen in order to do pathology. Diagnosis, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of time before doctors will be able to accept diagnosis. And I agree with you. The technology can do diagnosis, right? But how do we put it into the practice in the way that I think we're not there. I think the field is not there, or the clinicians are not there. We have to start slowly. We have to do. Maybe we can give diagnosis as a possibility, but to give all the evidence. What it really is about is you can't shortcut to the diagnosis. You have to give all the evidence, which is really the same thing that I said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bergman.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.